I gave my mom my savings for safekeeping. She gave it to my brother for a vacation. That sentence still runs laps in my brain sometimes, like an annoying song I never meant to memorize. But back then, before I knew what she'd done, it was just another night, another shift, another $10 tip I tucked into a coffee-stained envelope labeled home. I was 30 years old, juggling 3 jobs in a city that never asked how you were doing unless you were late on rent. Morning shifts as a barista, afternoons delivering Thai food to sleepy office parks, and nights watching an empty furniture store on Main Street to make sure no one stole sofas no one wanted. My apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that smelled like old fries and wet socks. I didn't complain. It was cheap, close to work, and I'd gotten used to the dripping bathroom faucet like people get used to a bad knee. Annoying but familiar. The windows didn't close all the way, and sometimes in winter, I'd wake up with frost on the inside of the glass. But again, I didn't complain. I had a goal. Every time I got paid, I split the cash. A little for rent, some for food, a slice for bus fare. And the rest? That went into an envelope. Then into a box. Then into my mother's closet. I didn't trust banks. Or rather, I didn't trust myself with banks. One bad day and I might convince myself I deserved that PS5 or new shoes or concert tickets. But if I gave the money to Mom, it was safe. Out of sight, out of impulse. Don't worry, she used to say, tapping the lid of that old cookie tin she kept under her sweaters. I won't touch a dime. This is your future, baby. And I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Mom, Janice, was the kind of woman who always made sure dinner was on the table, even if it meant she ate toast instead of meat. She'd raised me and my younger brother, Graham, mostly alone, working nights at a hospital and weekends cleaning houses. She'd earned my trust through every burnt pancake, every hand-sewn Halloween costume, every late-night hug when I cried over a stupid breakup or bad grade. She loved her boys, she always said. Equally. 2 sides of the same coin. Though, I admit, the coin always seemed to land Graham's side up. Still, I wasn't bitter. Not really. Graham had a wife and kids now, Melissa, a whirlwind of Pinterest ideas and passive aggression, and 2 little ones who left sticky handprints on everything. He worked in IT, mostly remote, always tired, always about to lose it. Meanwhile, I was single, quiet, and allergic to chaos. I liked routines. I liked goals. And mine was simple, save $20,000 and buy a small 1-bedroom condo. Nothing fancy. Just something with a door that locked and a patch of sun I could claim as mine. I'd reached $14,300, all in those envelopes. That night, after finishing my shift at the cafe and dropping off an order of drunken noodles to a guy who didn't tip, I headed to Mom's place. She lived in a modest duplex just a few blocks from where we grew up. Her living room still had the same faded recliner and fake fireplace. Heater from when I was a kid. The smell of cinnamon air freshener and boiled cabbage hit me the second I opened the door. Dirk. She beamed, wiping her hands on a dish towel. You look skinny. Are you eating? Only when the wind blows west, I joked, stepping in and kissing her cheek. We sat at the table. I pulled out the envelope, this week's deposit, $150. Tips had been slow. She smiled and took it with both hands, almost reverently. You're getting close, huh? Almost 15 grand, I said, trying not to sound too proud. 3 or 4 more months and I'll be ready. I'm so proud of you, she said, squeezing my hand. She always said that. Then she stood, walked into her bedroom, and pulled out the cookie tin. She opened it, placed the envelope inside, and closed the lid with a little tap, like sealing a spell. One day, I grinned. This becomes a house key. She laughed, but it sounded tight, like something caught in her throat. I didn't think much of it at the time. I should have. But I was tired. Bone tired. I still had my night shift to get to, and the idea of laying down on the old cot in the furniture store's back room and closing my eyes was all I could focus on. As I walked back out into the chilly night, I remember feeling light, hopeful, the kind of hope you only get when the finish line is finally in sight. And just for a moment, I thought, maybe life was about to get better. Sunday lunch at Mom's was supposed to be a tradition. Lately, it just felt like an obligation, one where I showed up, chewed quietly, and tried not to say something sarcastic. This week, the table was fuller than usual. Graham sat across from me, a tired sort of confidence on his face as he balanced his youngest, baby Theo, on his knee, while his daughter, Ava, loudly colored in a princess book beside him. Melissa, his wife, was arranging the silverware like it was a wedding rehearsal. Every piece straight, napkins folded like origami. She had that pinched look she always wore, like she was 5 minutes away from snapping, but trying to keep it together for the cameras. And then there was Mom, apron on, hair tied back, moving between kitchen and table like a waitress short-staffed on Easter Sunday. She had a certain energy when Graham was around. Buzzing. Proud. It made her float a little. "You managed to get out of town this weekend?" She beamed, placing a tray of overcooked lasagna in the middle of the table. "I saw the photos on Facebook. Looked like a dream." Graham shrugged, adjusting Theo on his lap. "Yeah, just a quick overnight. Melissa wanted the kids to see some trees or whatever." "I think it's wonderful," Mom said, already beaming like he'd climbed Everest. "Families need that, especially with how hard you work." I stabbed a piece of garlic bread in silence. Graham worked from home, coding software for a company I couldn't name if I tried. He wore joggers most days and took mental health breaks when the Slack messages got too intense. And still, every Sunday, Mom acted like he'd survived war. "Tell them about the deer," Ava chirped. "There was a deer?" Mom asked, eyes wide. "She says that like we hand-fed Bambi," Graham chuckled. "It ran across the road, and Melissa screamed like it was Godzilla." "It was close, Graham," Melissa muttered, correcting Theo's bib like she wanted to rip it in half. "Well, I'm glad you got out," Mom said again. "It's so important to rest, especially with 2 little ones. I honestly don't know how you do it." "You just don't sleep," Graham said with a dramatic sigh. "You live on caffeine and desperation." That's when her eyes flicked to me. "If you had kids, Dirk," she said, "you'd understand. There's just no time. Not for yourself, not for rest, not for anything. You run on empty every day." I chewed my lasagna, slow and steady. I hadn't spoken yet. "You know, sometimes I only get 4 hours of sleep," Graham added, like he was describing surviving a winter in a tent. 4 hours. Last Tuesday, I got 3 hours and slept under a pile of couch cushions in the back of a showroom. Mom tisked and reached to refill his glass. "You're doing amazing. Just remember, this is the season of your life. It'll pass. One day the kids will be grown, and you'll sleep again." Melissa looked like she wanted to interrupt and say something about how he still slept better than she did, but instead, she reached for a roll. "And you," Mom said, finally looking at me, "working those 3 jobs, still saving for your condo. How's it going, sweetie?" I swallowed and nodded. "Good. Getting close." She smiled like I was a kind dog who had learned a trick. "Well, I hope you're also taking some time to live a little. Maybe meet someone, start a life. You're not getting younger, honey." Melissa chuckled under her breath. "Dirk's probably the only guy left in this town who doesn't have a dating app." "I don't have time to date," I said flatly. "Oh, none of us have time," Graham cut in. "But you make it. You find it. Right. Just dig behind the couch cushions, next to where I sleep." "Well," Mom said, "your brother makes it look easy, don't you think?" I didn't answer. I just looked at my plate. The sauce had already cooled. I could still taste the freezer burn. She meant well. She always meant well. But something about the way she looked at Graham, as if his life was harder, richer, more valid, tightened a knot in my chest. So my nights don't count unless I'm changing diapers? Because I'm not chasing a toddler around the living room, I must be well rested. Because I don't post blurry family selfies from hiking trails, I must be coasting. No one asked me about the time I worked 36 hours in 3 days last week, or how I had to pawn my headphones to cover a late electric bill, or how I still sometimes dream about a condo with a dishwasher and a window that doesn't whistle in the wind. None of that counted. After lunch, Graham and Melissa packed up quickly. Melissa was already half out the door before Graham had even buckled Theo into his stroller. Ava ran up and hugged Mom's legs dramatically. "You're coming next weekend, right?" Mom asked Graham. "We'll try," he said. "Depends on the kids. I'll make your favorite, chicken pot pie." Of course. Graham got the good stuff. I got lasagna from the back of the freezer and unsolicited advice about starting a life. When they finally left and the house was quiet again, Mom started clearing plates. I stood to help. "You don't have to," she said. "It's fine." She gave me a warm smile. "You're such a good boy, Dirk, always helping, always so responsible." I waited for the but, like always. It didn't come this time. Instead, she looked tired, really tired. And for a second, I remembered all those nights she worked the ER, and then scrubbed rich people's toilets the next morning, just so we had clothes and electricity. She didn't have to say it, but I saw it in her face. She'd given everything to raise us. And somehow, I think she still thought she owed Graham just a little more. I washed the plates in silence. Maybe one day I'd understand. Maybe not. But for now, I dried my hands, kissed her cheek, and went home to get 3 hours of sleep before the next shift. It wasn't fancy. The walls needed paint, and the bathroom had a faucet that leaked with a polite but persistent plink-plink. But the sunlight, God, the sunlight. Late morning rays streamed through the tall windows, warming the scuffed hardwood floors and throwing soft, dappled shadows on the far wall. From the corner of the living room, you could see the edge of the park, just a slice of green, but enough. "This place has good bones," the realtor said, sipping her coffee. "Nothing showy, but it's solid. You could really make it your own." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak just yet. It was a one-bedroom loft on the edge of the old warehouse district, where buildings still smelled like brick dust and second chances. Rent to own, just within reach. I could almost hear the sound of my keys jingling in the lock. "I've seen a lot of guys your age fall in love with places like this," the realtor added. "You walk in and something just clicks." "It's perfect," I finally said. "Well, perfect for me." She smiled. "That's all that matters." I rode the elevator down with a half-melted coffee in one hand and a folder of paperwork in the other. It was one of those clunky, metal-doored elevators that groaned with age. Probably hadn't seen maintenance since the 90s, but I liked it. It reminded me that things didn't have to be sleek or shiny to carry you somewhere good. Outside, the spring air smelled like wet pavement and cut grass. I pulled out my phone, took a picture of the building, and for a second just stood there, breathing it in. This was it. My fresh start. After years of odd jobs and sleeping in borrowed basements and skipping dinners to pay off debt, I was here. All I needed now was to get the last of my savings. The part Mom had been keeping safe. I'd given it to her in chunks over the last 2 years. After all, she was the only person I trusted. I didn't want the temptation of dipping into it, and she always said she'd keep it untouched, like a vault. So I went to her place with printed cost estimates, a calculator, and my dream tucked under one arm. She was making tea when I walked in. The kitchen smelled like lemon and something overcooked. Her hands were wrapped in a dish towel, and she looked surprised to see me so Carly in the day. "Well, this is a treat," she said. "You're not working?" I shook my head and held up the folder like it was a trophy. "Just came from a showing. It's the one, Mom. I think I found it." "Oh," she said, smiling as she poured hot water into her mug. "It's small, but it has everything I need. A little park view. Good bones. I even ran the numbers. I'll need about 12 grand to make the down payment and cover initial costs. I've got 10 on hand. I just need to get the rest from you." She froze slightly. It was subtle, just a flicker in the way she set the kettle down. But I saw it. "What?" I said, trying to laugh. "You didn't lose it, did you?" She sat down across from me, her mug steaming between her palms. "I need to tell you something," she began, and suddenly the air felt heavier. "No," I said, already feeling my stomach turn. "No, no, don't start like that. It's not what you think," she said quickly. "It's just, Graham came to me a few weeks ago. He was so tired, Dirk. The kids were sick, and Melissa's job cut her hours, and they hadn't had a real break in years. He looked like he was going to collapse." I blinked. "You gave him my money?" "Just part of it," she said. "Enough for them to take a proper vacation. They went to the coast. The kids had never even seen the ocean before. Isn't that something?" I couldn't speak. I just stared at her. She kept talking, like if she filled the silence fast enough, it wouldn't swallow her. "They're a family, Dirk. They needed it. And you're still young. You'll bounce back." "You didn't even ask me," I said, voice low. "You didn't tell me. You would have said no." "Of course I would have said no. It's not his money." She set the mug down hard enough that tea sloshed over the rim. "I'm your mother, Dirk. I don't need your permission to make a decision that's right for this family." I laughed, cold and humorless. "So that's it? You just decided?" "He's your brother," she snapped. "He has children. He has a wife. That comes with responsibilities. You wouldn't understand." I stood up. My hands were shaking. "I worked 3 jobs. I slept in the back of a furniture van, Mom. I lived off ramen and black coffee. And you handed over my savings so Graham could sip cocktails in a hotel with a beach view?" She flinched, just slightly. Then quietly, "He needed it more." I stared at her. My mouth opened, closed. I couldn't find anything worth saying. So I walked out. On the bus ride home, the city looked different. The windows were streaked with rain, and every building I passed felt like someone else's dream. I thought about the apartment, about the sun coming through the windows. It was still out there. It still existed. But for now, it belonged to someone else. When I got home, I didn't turn on the lights. I dropped my keys on the floor. Not the counter, not the hook, just the floor. I kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto the couch face down, like gravity had doubled just for me. For a while, I just lay there listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the faint creak of the building settling around me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just existed. Eventually, I reached for my phone. My thumb hovered for a second before tapping Jordan's name. He picked up on the third ring. "Dirk," he said, sounding surprised. "It's not even 10. You on break?" "No," I said flatly. "I'm home." "Wait, you missed your shift?" "You, Mr. Schedule tattooed on his brain? What happened? Someone die?" There was a pause. "Someone did die, didn't they?" "My apartment died," I muttered into the couch cushion. "What?" I sat up and rubbed my eyes. My dream apartment. I found it. I had everything ready. I just needed to get the last bit of my savings from my mom. Jordan let out a low whistle. "Okay, so what's the issue? She lost the envelope or something?" "No. She gave it to my brother." Another pause. "To Graham?" "Yeah. For what, rent?" "Vacation." Jordan laughed. Then the laugh died in his throat. "Wait. She gave it away? All of it?" "Yup. Dude." I didn't say anything. "Dude," he repeated, slower this time. "I mean, holy crap. I thought you were being dramatic. But that's insane. That's next level betrayal." I know. There was a silence between us, the kind where no one wants to be the first to breathe. Then I heard Jordan sigh. "What are you gonna do?" "I don't know," I said. "Sleep. Maybe scream into a bag." He tried to chuckle, but it came out awkward. "Let me know if you need anything, all right?" "I will." But I didn't. Not that night. I don't know why I opened social media. Maybe I wanted to feel something. Maybe I was hoping for a distraction. Instead, I got a punch to the gut. There they were, my family. Graham, Melissa, and their two perfect sandy-haired kids, posing in front of a pastel pink hotel in Miami. The caption read, "Finally some rest. We earned it." Melissa had posted a story. Graham holding a lobster bigger than his head. His daughter giggling next to him with a double scoop cone of mint chocolate chip. Everyone tan. Everyone glowing. The next post was them clinking glasses of white wine in a rooftop restaurant, the ocean glittering behind them like it had never heard of bills or bad credit or broken trust. I stared at the screen until my phone locked itself. Then I stared at the black reflection of my own face, not angry, not sad, just hollow. I didn't go to work the next day, or the day after. I texted Jordan a vague, "Not feeling great. Need a couple days." He didn't push. Probably figured I was nursing a hangover or a heartbreak. And he wasn't wrong, except the hangover was from hope, and the heartbreak was maternal. The apartment didn't look like mine anymore. Dishes piled in the sink. I let the curtain stay closed. At night, I ordered food I didn't finish. Let half-eaten fries go stale in the box. It was amazing how quickly you could go from building a future to just existing. Inside four walls, I didn't check my email. Didn't open bank apps. Just floated. On day 3, my phone rang. Mom. For a moment, I stared at the screen, thumb hovering again. I picked up. "Dirk," she said, like she was starting a prayer. "Are you done sulking yet?" I blinked. "Excuse me? You've made your point. You're upset. But you don't understand what it's like to be a mother. I did what I had to do." "You had to give him my money?" "I chose to help someone who needed it more." I exhaled, slow and sharp. "I'm your son too. You're not the one with 2 kids and a mortgage," she snapped. "You're single, no responsibilities. You'll bounce back like you always do. I'm sorry if that hurts your ego." "It's not about my ego," I snapped back. "It's about trust. You promised me you were keeping it safe. You promised." Her voice softened. Weaponized sweetness. "You're holding on to this bitterness, Dirk. You always did have trouble letting go of things. I wonder why." "You'll forgive me," she said, with the kind of certainty only a parent who never apologized could manage. "You always do." And there it was. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't ever going to be sorry. I said nothing. Just listened to her breathe through the line like she'd won. Then I hung up. That night, I didn't eat. I didn't shower. I lay on the couch in the dark, blanket twisted around my legs, staring at the ceiling. Outside, the city murmured, cars, distant sirens, someone laughing too loud. Life happening without me. I thought about the apartment, the light, the elevator, the realtor's gentle smile. All of it blurred now, like a memory someone had told me secondhand. My mouth was dry. My chest felt tight. And still, I didn't cry. I just whispered, barely loud enough for the air to catch it, I'm done. The job wasn't glamorous. It was logistics, warehouse night shifts, hauling crates, scanning barcodes, wrangling freight orders that never matched the packing slips. My back hurt more than I cared to admit. My hands were always dry and cracked, no matter how much lotion I used. I came home smelling like dust and diesel. But it was mine. No one was handing me anything. No one was pulling strings behind my back or redistributing what I'd earned to someone with louder problems. It wasn't just a paycheck. It was control. And this time, I opened my own savings account. No shared access, no paper trail back to my mother's rainy day fund. Just my name on the login and a tiny balance that grew like a slow, stubborn plant. Every time I transferred $50 in, I imagined it as an act of defiance. I'd started to dream again, but smaller this time. Not of big lofts or balconies with skyline views. No, I wanted something mobile, flexible. I wanted a van. A food truck was too big, too complicated, too expensive. But a coffee van? A retro-style camper converted into a rolling espresso bar. Minimalist menu, black coffee, cold brew, maybe one weird seasonal flavor to keep the influencers entertained. Pull up near parks, gyms, offices, wherever caffeine was currency. It sounded ridiculous at first, but I couldn't shake it. So I started sketching on my breaks, researching equipment, watching videos of baristas foaming oat milk in the back of customized vans while indie music played in the background. The idea lit something in me. Not hope, exactly. More like momentum. I cut back contact with my mom after our last call. Not dramatically. No screaming ultimatums. Just distance. I stopped answering right away. Let texts go unread. Didn't show up for Sunday dinners. I told her I was busy with work, which was technically true. Graham messaged once about a birthday party for one of his kids. I replied, can't make it. Working a double? He left me on read. The silence was peaceful. A few weeks into the new job, I met Alicia. She lived in the next building over. Small, round glasses, always in oversized sweatshirts, walking a dog that looked like a ratty mop with legs. We first met in the laundry room. I was elbow deep in folding towels, and she asked if I had change for a $5. I didn't. But we ended up talking anyway, about late night shifts, about broken dryers, about how cold the floor was in the mornings. Next time, she knocked on my door with a mug of tea. You looked like you needed this last time, she said. She had this gentle, matter-of-fact way of showing up. Not pushy, not invasive, just present. Like a lamp you didn't know you needed until someone turned it on. We weren't dating, not exactly, but she became a kind of lighthouse. One night, after a long shift, I told her about the coffee van idea. She didn't laugh. Instead, she said, "What would you call it?" I blinked. I haven't even thought of that. Well, she smiled, start thinking, because that sounds like something people would wait in line for. That night, I started sketching logo ideas on the back of my work schedule. Boundaries became easier. When my mom called asking if I could lend Graham a few hundred just until the next check, I said no, and ended the call before the guilt avalanche started. When she texted an hour later with, "I'm just disappointed in how selfish you've become," I didn't respond at all. I was done explaining myself. Alicia noticed the shift in me. "You're quieter but stronger," she said once, sitting cross-legged on my floor with a bowl of popcorn between us. Like, "You're growing bones where there used to be bruises." That line stuck with me. I wasn't angry anymore, just building. I found the van on Craigslist, beat up, but structurally solid. The kind of thing people sell right before they move across the country or give up on a dream. The guy selling it looked tired, but kind. Said it used to be a mobile plant shop. "You want to sell coffee in this thing?" He asked. "Yeah," I said, placing my hand on the side panel. "Hot drinks, cold drinks, maybe some hope in a cup." He laughed and knocked a few hundred off the price. The conversion took time. More YouTube tutorials than I could count. More trips to hardware stores than I cared to admit. Alicia helped when she could, holding things, giving opinions. handing me water when I looked like I was forgetting to blink. She painted a small mural on the inside panel, a steaming cup with the words fuel and forgiveness curling around it. I didn't realize how perfect that name was until I saw it in her handwriting. Fuel for the road, forgiveness for myself. One morning I pulled the van out for its first unofficial test run. No customers, just me. A thermos of black coffee, my playlist humming from a Bluetooth speaker. I parked near the corner where I used to deliver food. Rainy nights, freezing hands, waiting outside office lobbies while people laughed inside. Same sidewalk, same cracked curb. But I wasn't carrying someone else's order now. I was holding my own cup. I leaned against the van door and looked around. The air smelled like possibility, and for the first time in years, I felt steady. Same corner, new chapter. A year and a half later, I unlocked the door to my own place. It wasn't big. One bedroom. The kind of kitchen where you could stand in the center and touch every counter. But the floors were clean, the paint was fresh, and sunlight poured through the wide window in the living room every morning, like it had nowhere better to be. There was a balcony too, just enough room for a folding chair and a little plant stand where I grew basil and mint in mismatched pots. Some nights I'd sit out there with a cup of coffee from my own van, listening to traffic hum and letting the quiet settle around me like a blanket. It wasn't a dream home, but it was mine. Paid for with calloused hands, sleepless weeks, and more self-respect than I'd had in years. The call came on a Tuesday. I was restocking cold brew in the van when my phone rang. The name on the screen made my stomach tighten. I hadn't spoken to her in months. Messages had slowed to polite holiday texts, the kind that feel like checking a box rather than reaching out. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. "Hi, Mom." Her voice cracked immediately. "Dirk." I didn't know who else to call. I stepped out of the van, holding the phone against my ear like it might sting. "What's wrong?" "It's Graham," she said, and the tears came fast. "He lost his job 3 months ago. They didn't tell anyone, just shut down the branch overnight. The severance was barely anything. And now the girls are sick, both of them. Doctor visits, medicine, insurance won't cover half of it. And they're behind on the mortgage and the car and... Oh, Dirk, I know we haven't talked much, but you're his brother. He's your brother. You have to help." There it was. The same melody, different verse. You're his brother. You have to help. Not. Can you? Not would you consider. Just have to. Like it was a law of nature, like gravity. I swallowed hard. My eyes drifted to the basil plant on the dashboard, leaves curling toward the light. "Where are you?" "At home," she said. "Please. Can you come? Just talk to him. He's not himself." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "I'll come by after my shift." The house hadn't changed. Same ceramic duck napkin holder. Same ticking wall clock that always ran a few minutes slow. Same faint smell of lemon cleaner and old carpet. I stepped into the kitchen and for a second, I was 20 again, apologizing for things that weren't my fault. Mom was at the table, tissues scattered like snowdrifts. She stood up when she saw me and grabbed my hands. "Thank you for coming," she whispered, eyes swollen, lips trembling. Graham sat slumped in the corner chair. His face looked thinner. His shoulders sagged under invisible weights. He didn't look up right away. I took the seat across from him, the one where I'd once laid out mortgage estimates, interest calculations, and floor plan printouts. I could almost see the ghost of that folder still sitting there. No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Mom sniffed and said, "He didn't want me to call you. He's proud. But Dirk, he needs help. The girls need help." Graham looked up, tired but still distant. "I'm not here to argue," I said calmly. "I just want to say something." Mom straightened. Graham stared at the floor again. "When I needed you," I began, voice steady, "to have my back, to believe in me, support me, or at the very least ask before you made a decision that cost me everything." I paused. "You didn't." Mom opened her mouth, but I raised a hand gently. "You didn't give me a choice. You gave away what I built. You handed it over like it was spare change, because he had kids, because he was tired, because I'd figure it out." The silence was thick. "I did figure it out," I continued. "But not because of you. I built something new. I worked until my fingers cracked and my feet hurt and my eyes blurred. And now I have a life, a home, a future. Because I had to grow one alone." Mom wiped her eyes. Graham looked at me now. Still no apology, just exhaustion. "I'm not here to gloat. And I'm not here to rescue anyone, I said softly. I turned to my mother. When I needed you to have my back, you gave away my spine. She flinched. Graham looked away again. I stood, slowly, pushed my chair in. There was no anger in me, just finality. I hope things turn around for you, I said, meaning it. But I'm not the solution anymore. I walked to the door. No one followed me. No one begged. No one stopped me. And I didn't look back. That night, back on my balcony, I watched the streetlights flicker on one by one. The air smelled like jasmine and city smoke. Alicia texted, "Van's getting great reviews. Saw someone post about it on TikTok. You're kind of a big deal." I smiled and sent back a coffee emoji and a heart. Then I leaned back, letting the cool breeze wash over me. No guilt, no chains. Just peace. The morning light spilled softly through the blinds, painting golden stripes across the small kitchen table where I sat, nursing a steaming cup of coffee. The rich aroma filled the room, mingling with the faint notes of jazz humming low from the speakers in the corner. The kind of music that didn't demand attention but offered comfort, warm, steady, reliable. My laptop was open in front of me, emails and orders blinking quietly on the screen. The van was humming along, growing more popular by the day. I was swamped, but in a good way. The kind of busy that meant progress, that meant I was building something solid. Alicia sat across from me, casually scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing up to share a smile or a quick joke. Our friendship had grown into something steady and real, not romance, not fireworks, just a quiet support that felt like coming home after a long day. "Looks like you're booked solid for the weekend," she said, tucking a stray curl behind her ear. I nodded. "Yeah, and the new batch of beans just arrived. I'm thinking of adding a cold brew special next week." She grinned. "You're really doing it, Dirk. You're making it happen." I smiled back, but my eyes drifted to my phone where a notification blinked, a tagged photo in Graham's social media feed. Curiosity pulled me in. The image showed him with Melissa and the kids, smiles forced, eyes tired. The sun in the background seemed harsh and unkind, as if it was spotlighting how far from easy their lives had become. No new vacations, no celebratory posts, just real life, raw and unfiltered. I didn't feel triumph or schadenfreude. There was no satisfaction in someone else's hardship, especially family. Instead, I felt something quieter, a calm acceptance. I put the phone down and looked out the window. The city was waking up. People on their way to work, kids waiting for buses, life moving forward. And so was I. I reached for my coffee again and took a slow sip. My mind wandered to everything that had happened, the sacrifices, the betrayals, the nights I spent wondering if I'd ever catch a break. But here I was, not bitter, not broken, just free. Alicia caught my gaze and smiled, her eyes saying what words never needed to. I leaned back, letting the jazz wrap around me once more. And in that moment, I realized what it really meant to win. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't rubbing someone's nose in their mistakes. It was peace. Quiet peace. The kind that comes from forgiving, not for their sake, but for mine. Because forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about letting myself off the leash, letting go of the anger, the pain, the chains I'd carried for too long. I closed my laptop gently, the day's work done for now. Alicia stood, stretched, and looked out the window beside me. Together, we watched the sun climb higher. I smiled and closed the door behind me. The click of the lock was soft but certain, a sound that said this chapter was over, and whatever came next, I was ready.